Mark is 34 years old. He saved for 2 years for this moment. Not a loan, not a lease, not 72 months of payments stretching into a future he can't see. Cash, the full amount, sitting in his account, ready to move. He's done the research. He knows the model, the trim, the invoice price. He walked in with more information than most people carry into a dealership in their entire lives. And the first thing he tells the salesman, before they've even shaken hands properly, is the one sentence he's been looking forward to saying: I'm paying cash. Price first, payment last. That's the rule that wins in a dealership. Mark just did it backwards. Alex isn't more prepared than Mark. He didn't bring a spreadsheet. He didn't research harder. He just didn't say that sentence. Same car, same dealership, same week. Two completely different outcomes. The gap between them has nothing to do with negotiating harder, and everything to do with the order of one conversation. Mark has been in this seat for about 4 minutes when the salesman asks the question. Not what model. Mark answered that on the lot. Not what color. He already knew. The question the salesman asks, before anything else, before a single number is written down, is this: So, are you financing today or paying cash? Mark feels good about his answer. What he doesn't know is that the dealership isn't one business. It's three, running simultaneously under the same roof. And the answer he's about to give is about to change the numbers in all three before the negotiation even starts. The first business is the car itself, the gap between what the dealer paid for it and what Mark pays. This is the number Mark researched all week. It's real. It's just not the whole picture. The second business is financing. When a dealer arranges a loan, they don't just connect a buyer to a bank. They can mark up the interest rate, sometimes by a full percentage point, sometimes two, and keep the difference. On a $35,000 car over 60 months, that kind of markup can generate $1,000 to $2,000 in profit. It often doesn't appear as a line item. It doesn't show up anywhere the buyer can point to. It's called the dealer reserve, and it can be built into the structure of finance deals before the buyer ever sits down. The third business is the back end: extended warranties, gap insurance, paint protection, all of it presented after the buyer has already emotionally committed to the car. That sequencing isn't accidental. Once you've decided on the car, resistance to add-ons tends to drop. They save that conversation for last on purpose. Mark is focused on the first business. The dealership may be running all three. When Mark says cash, something quiet happens on the other side of the desk. The financing profit, the $1,000 to $2,000 they may have been counting on, disappears before a single number about the car has ever been discussed. And when a profit source disappears that fast, other numbers often have to absorb it. Mark doesn't see that adjustment. He just sees a salesman writing something down. But the number that comes back to him has already been shaped by the answer he gave before the negotiation started. The sequence is the thing. Price first, payment last. Mark gave the payment answer before the price conversation even opened. While Mark waits, he's thinking about the invoice price, the walkaway figure, the number below which he'll stand up and leave. What he doesn't know is what's being calculated on the other side of that door. On a $35,000 car, 60-month loan, a dealer who marks up the rate by 2% can earn somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 in financing profit. Money that doesn't come from the car price, that moves invisibly over 5 years of payments, and that often never appears on any document the buyer signs. Mark just told them that money is gone. So the flexibility they had built into the car price, room to discount, room to deal, may already be smaller than it was 60 seconds ago, before he said a word about the car. There's a number Mark hasn't thought about yet, not the invoice price, a different number. What this lost flexibility actually costs when you add it up over time. He'll run it eventually, not today. The number on paper, $36,400. Mark pushes back. They go a few rounds. The salesman checks with the manager, comes back with a small concession. Mark feels it moving. He feels like he's winning. He gets them down, not as far as he wanted, but further than where they started. He shakes hands, feeling like he handled himself well. He did. That's what makes this hard. He negotiated well, inside a room that had already gotten smaller the moment he walked in, and he's the one who closed the door. Alex said nothing about how he was paying when the question came. We'll figure out payment later. I want to make sure the price is right first. Price first, payment last. One sentence, said at the right moment. That kept the financing possibility alive in the dealer's mind through the entire negotiation. More room to move, incentives still on the table. The discount came easier. After the price was agreed, only then, Alex paid cash. The payment method was the same. The order of the conversation was different. That's the only gap between $36,400 and $34,600. 2 weeks later, Mark tells the story at dinner. The research, the wholesale price, walking in prepared, saying cash up front so they couldn't run financing games on him. His friend Jordan nods. Smart. Dealers hate cash buyers. Mark agrees. It felt that way. He paid $36,400. No payment, no interest, no bank. That's a real win, and he knows it. But Alex is at the same table, doing quiet math no one else is doing. Alex paid $34,600 for the same car. Cash, same as Mark, in the end. He's not going to say that tonight. There's no version of that sentence that doesn't feel like a correction. But he's sitting with the $1,800. Not because it's a devastating number on its own, because of what it's a template for. Mark had more information walking into that dealership than most people ever walk in with. He did everything right by the rules he knew, and he still paid $1,800 more because of the order of one sentence. That's not a negotiating problem. That's a sequencing problem, and sequencing problems don't stay in one room. The dealership isn't the only place this runs. Almost every major purchase negotiation has a version of the same structure. A question early in the conversation, before any price is on the table, where your answer tells the other side exactly how much flexibility they need to keep in reserve. At the furniture store, will you be financing that? Said before a price is discussed. Your answer changes the room. At the contractor, what's your budget for this project? The number you give often becomes the floor of what they quote, not the ceiling. The pattern is always the same. The question comes first. Your answer shapes every number that follows, and it runs whether you're prepared or not, because it's not about preparation. It's about sequence. Price first, payment last, budget last. Answer the question about money only after you have a number to protect. That's the rule. One sentence, said at the right moment, changes what comes after it. Mark doesn't know this yet. He thinks what happened in the dealership was specific to the dealership. It wasn't. He doesn't feel cheated. He feels something quieter than that. He pulls up his bank statements. Not just the car, everything. The last 2 years. He starts looking at every major purchase through a different lens. Not what he paid, when he answered the question, and what that answer cost him before the negotiation started. None of it felt like a loss at the time. Each one felt reasonable in the moment. He opens a note on his phone, writes one line, price first, payment method last, always. Then he sits with it for a moment, not defeated, just recalibrating, and closes the laptop. Alex isn't proud of the $1,800. It's not a trophy. It's just a rule he learned once and hasn't forgotten. Price is one conversation. Payment is another. Never let the other side merge them before you have a number to protect. That's it. That's the whole system. Mark didn't lose $1,800 because he was unprepared. He lost it because he gave the payment answer before the price conversation opened. And in a negotiation, the order of information is everything. Cash is power, but only at the right moment in the right conversation. Said too early, before a price is set, it doesn't give you leverage. It removes the other side's most flexible profit source before you've extracted any of that flexibility for yourself. The rule is simple. Negotiate the price. Agree on a number. Then, and only then, tell them how you're paying. Price first, payment last, every time. Mark eventually ran the number he skipped in the dealership waiting room, the $1,800 he left on that table. To use a simple illustration, if that amount were invested at average market returns over 10 years, it comes out closer to $3,500. One purchase, one sentence said too early. Multiply that across every room where the same sequence runs, and the number gets harder to look at. Once you see the pattern, you stop answering the money question before you have a price to protect. You just negotiate first. Then, pay however you want.